It's 2024 and I'm playing The Outer Worlds, specifically the Spacer's Choice Edition. And before I even get started on this video, I want to point out that this is the third remastered game I'm playing this year, and so far Dark Souls Remastered is the only one that looks at all better than the original. This game, the grey washed one on screen right now, is the only one which looks noticeably improved. Just want to acknowledge that before we go any further. Anyway, this is an RPG, which means it's character creator time. I decide that I want to go for a min-max sort of build. I had in mind a gunslinging, charismatic idiot, so that's exactly what I created. With my character built, it's time to go over the story. I am a colonist who was put into cryosleep and kind of just left like that because capitalism only incentivizes easy profits, rather than doing what is morally right. Not kidding, this is literally the main plot of the game. A bunch of rich executives are basically working everyone to death in order to make the numbers go higher. Despite what Tim Curry said, even space isn't free from capitalism.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
Anyway, this Rick Sanchez wannabe is the only one who seems to want to change things, so he's decided to unfreeze me, believing that I can save the entire Halcyon system, which just goes to show you that not all scientists are smart. Rather than dealing with me himself, he elects to shoot me down to a nearby planet, where he's recruited a space rogue to assist us in our journey. I immediately kill my one ally planetside by landing directly on top of him.
What in law's name? Is that him? Oh, that idiot. I told him to plant the beacon and move away, not stand there holding it. Oh well, no sense in letting his ship go to waste.
He might be dead, but his ship should be somewhere about the place, so we're off to go find it. On the way, we get our first bit of combat. Marauders are going to be the main enemy, but fortunately killing them is pretty easy. Also turns out that having been frozen means I can now freeze time. While it doesn't make any practical sense, I suppose there's a sort of linguistic logic to it. Despite practically being a superhero, I still bully the first corpos I meet into fighting the Marauders for me.
Seriously? But those Marauders will... Ugh. You know what? You're right. It's time we cross those Marauders off, find whoever owns that ship, and file a full report. And it's gonna be fucking laminated.
In the meantime, I try to climb atop a rock, but in the handful of seconds I attempt that, both the friendlies die and I'm left to finish off the Marauders. This is actually a good thing though, as I now get to loot a couple of extra corpses. At least, I can do once I find them. I'm of the opinion that every corpse that you can loot in modern games needs to have some kind of outline when you approach it, or a marker to show where it is, or a fucking blaring siren to sound when I'm looking directly at it, because I just can't spot bodies in the long grass, and I dread to think how much of my life has been wasted just looking for them. After I finally got my loot, I'm able to board the ship and have an interaction with the onboard computer.
Jettison procedures initiated. Disengaging airlocks. Preparing to eject all boarding parties in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are still here. My deception protocols have failed. I have been programmed to express disappointment.
After that failed attempt on my life, I let her know that her old captain is dead, but she quickly gets over it and decides that I'm the captain now instead. I'm pretty sure she's basically just done the same trick parents do when the kid's hamster dies unexpectedly, and just, replace it with a similar looking one. Also, I've just become the pilot of a spaceship, just by showing up and talking to the first person I come across. Is this the sort of situation that boomers are on about when they say to get a job you just need to show up? 'Cause I'm down for this, honestly. To no one's surprise, this is actually too good to be true. As it turns out, the ship is broken, and in order to get it working again, I need to find a functional power regulator. The nearby settlement has a decent chance of housing one, so off I go. But the second I step outside the ship, I'm accosted by Ernest, who would like an explanation of the dead Spacer's Choice soldiers.
Now, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but seems to me they're all dead. Mind telling me what happened here? Accidentally, brutally shot themselves, huh? Unbelievable. Second time this month.
Seems like murder isn't that big of a deal on the planet, so I decide to indulge and kill some nearby marauders. With my bloodlust temporarily satiated, I head back into town and ask about power regulators. I speak to the guy in charge, Reed Thompson, and he lets me know that there's 2 different regulators nearby. One is in his cannery, and he'd rather I didn't take that. But another is being used by some deserters, who have decided they don't like working for Space's Choice and want to make their own way. Obviously Reed would much rather I take their one, but seems I'll have to chat with them first. I'm not going to be alone on this journey though, as the town mechanic Parvati has also decided she wants to come with me. She's the only one invested in this choice. As for me, it's just a decision between 2 groups of strangers, which does make me feel more like I'm her follower rather than the other way around. This is then reinforced when she tells me to go speak to the local vicar, and I immediately comply. Vicar Max is looking for a book that is somewhere outside the walls of the town. As an avid reader, I'm more than happy to help out a fellow bookworm. And he's not the only one with side quests for me to get on with. Ludwig here is looking for someone to fight against the robots. Seeing as SAG-AFTRA aren't doing anything to deal with the problem, I guess it's left to me. Turns out the robot is literally right around the corner, so it's one quick fight, and the job is done. As I'm already outside, figure I may as well go find the book for Max too. The first place I go to is covered in marauders, and after wiping them out, I find out that the book was actually hiding somewhere else. I almost feel bad for killing half a dozen people just to discover I'm in the wrong place, but I did get a sniper rifle from it, so you know. Off to the cave, and things are pretty easy here. I do set off a trap, but the damage is minimal, and after breaking into the safe, I find the book, so time to bring it back to town. Max is happy to see me return, but upon seeing the book, comes to a devastating realization.
French?
That's right, the book's French, meaning it's obviously trash. Or maybe Max just can't speak French. Either way, he's saddened enough to decide that joining my crew is a good move. So he heads off to my ship. Then it's back to Ludwig, who is in a much better mood. He's happy to hear that the robot is dead, so gives me a weapon mod, which I will almost certainly forget to use. The battle against AI isn't over though, so he asked me to destroy every robot I see, which is honestly what I was going to do anyway. It's now time to go and meet the deserters, but on my way I stumble into the middle of a marauder outpost. Rather than run straight through, I decide to stand in the middle of a street and start shooting. Unbelievably, this doesn't go well. Yeah, enemies with automatic weapons seem to be fairly lethal across the board, so when I respawn I choose to keep my distance and pick off enemies with my sniper. I finally make it to the deserters, and guess what? They think I should take the power regulator from the town instead of from them. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, this is just a pretty clear-cut binary choice where I'm going to get to decide which side comes out on top. The process is the same for either one, so it doesn't really change what I'm going to be doing. Right before I make it to the geothermal plant, I find a named Carnid. As a visitor on this planet, I obviously make it my priority to wipe out as much of the native fauna as possible. It's now time to take on the power plant. Seems the past workers have been killed by robots, so I have to fight my way through while trying to find out how this place works. Fortunately, I find this totally sane individual down in the basement.
Chester D. Higgins. The D stands for definitely not insane. I use it as a reminder.
Seems he worked here before the robot revolution, so he's able to tell us what we need to do, and give us a password which can turn all the robots against each other. Rather than use that, I just kill them all with hammers and bullets. Mostly because I finally figured out what button is the follower special move, but also because I'm playing as an idiot character, and this feels much more in line with that. I then run around for 10 solid minutes, trying to find all the switches I'm supposed to flip, and then the control console. My sense of direction is pretty terrible, but I found the in-game map really didn't help matters. Eventually I find the computer which lets me redirect power, and Parvati pipes up, telling me that she thinks Edgewater needs the power more. I do not care either way, so just go with what she says, and cut the power to the deserters. I then return to the deserters camp to get my power regulator, but the leader of them wants to know why I made my decision. And honestly, at this point I've got a little bit of a gamer rage going on. I've played The Outer Worlds a fair few times, and each time, going for Edgewater just gets less and less fun. It's great once or twice, but having to complete basically a 2-hour starting quest that follows the same path no matter who you side with, no. Just no. Feeling fed up, I save the game and then go on a short rampage. Alright, I've got the worst of it out of my system. I reload and pick up the power regulator, before letting the deserters know that they're fucked. I could convince them to return to the town, but I need to complete a couple more side quests in order to do that, and I truly cannot be arsed. Instead, I fast travel back to my ship. I've picked up 2 different crewmates and the essential power regulator, meaning I'm finally able to fly away. And that was The Outer Worlds, at least the start of the game. This is a very good game overall, that is well worth playing, but dear god is the replayability bad. It took me 2 hours to get off the planet, and I skipped over a whole bunch of stuff. If you're playing the game normally, then at best, you could maybe be getting on with your journey in about an hour. That's just way too long of a starting section for my liking. The game is definitely worth playing through once, but going back for additional playthroughs isn't something I'd really recommend unless you've fallen in love with the world. If you want to see some games I got on better with, check out my other videos in the Games in 2024 series. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, and make sure to subscribe for more of these in the future. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.